Okay, everybody, come on in. I have somebody I want you to meet. Come on in, come on in. It's really my pleasure to introduce somebody for the audience that's not in Chicago, because the folks who are here do not need an introduction to Phil Ponce. He is, he's one of those guys who you have seen on local news for a long time, so much so that it becomes a trusted member of your home, your sort of information world. He was so respected in Chicago that after years of reporting the news, they took him to the sort of most prestigious news and public affairs show this city has, which he anchored and ran for a really long time, Phil. How many years? A really long time.
More than 20. I think it might have been 23, give or take.
Yeah. So just really trusted journalist in this city. And then he went and retired, and in retirement did something stunning. During this crisis that Chicago has had, it weighed on him, and as it did on lots of us. And he didn't sit back. He threw himself into helping in lots of ways we'll talk about. But he also then got his former colleagues, journalists that we all trust, we all know, and got them to do something journalists don't usually do. They wrote a letter and said, "This is outrageous what's happening in the city." And it was received. Phil, I want to say that to me, what you did, the last time I saw something like this, I was a little boy. And it was Walter Cronkite going to Vietnam to say, what really is happening here? And coming on and telling America, you know what the government's telling us, it's just not square with the facts. And that's very rare in journalism, very rare, because by nature, you guys are, let's report on what people said and we'll hold them to account. But to step out and to do this, it's a once in a generation thing. And what's happened in Chicago drew it out. So talk about that. Talk about what got you to write this remarkable letter.
Well, Edwin, as you mentioned, this is a generational event, and it is our issuing that letter was unprecedented. But what's happening now is unprecedented. You mentioned Cronkite, and believe me, none of us are Uncle Walter, right? But collectively, times are different. But collectively, I hope that over the years we did earn people's trust here in Chicago. We started off the letter by saying, "You know us," and then we proceeded from there to use that relationship, because it can feel like a personal relationship between local news people and their audience. I mean, surveys show that local news is still the most trusted source of news that there is. So to the extent that any of us had any continuing credibility, continuing reliability, we thought it was time to use our collective voice. This has never happened before in Chicago, to my knowledge, but we thought this matters. This could be a sea change in terms of obviously not just our city, but our country. What's at stake? Democracy,
everything,
the rule of law,
yep,
human decency, who we are as a country, how we think of ourselves as a country, how we think of ourselves as people. And if you care about the rule of law, and if you're a person of any kind of faith, or if you're just an ethical person, I think in your gut, this is wrong.
Well, so the reporters in Chicago, the currently active reporters, ones who haven't retired, have been on the streets covering. And Chicago's a big city, and ICE and Customs and Border Patrol were all over the place in this metropolitan area. And the journalists did something else that is kind of unprecedented. The level of cooperation in this highly competitive news town was something I haven't seen much of, where journalists were tipping each other off and helping each other and protecting each other in places. There wasn't any, I have to get the scoop. There was, we collectively have to tell the truth. And it was folks on TV and folks at the big, big, well, used to be big, but the traditional newspapers, the Tribune and the Sun-Times, but also journalists from Block Club or from Borderless magazine, little organizations were all part of it in a way that did journalism proud here.
Edwin, I can't speak to that firsthand because I'm not in the trenches anymore, which is one of the reasons that I wasn't that all of us who signed that letter were in a position to sign that letter. As you know, when you work for a news organization, if you're working for a credible news organization, CBS has the Blue Book, and that Blue Book lays out rules of conduct for journalists. Where I worked at the PBS station in Chicago, we had very specific, very detailed rules about what you could or could not do. And one of the things you absolutely could not do was make personal statements endorsing a political candidate or on behalf of an issue. So the fact that we're retired now, we were in a position to do that. So I cannot speak to what the people are facing. I cannot speak personally from experience as to what the people who are now recovering are going through, but I will tell you this, having spoken to some reporters, they are getting phone calls from the government. They're being subject to public statements by Bobino, the head of ICE here. I think he's in Charlotte now. They've gotten death threats. And they are really laying it on the line. And so any reports of cooperation between everyone in the trenches right now does not surprise me. As you know, and you hinted at this, resources for local news have diminished. And so it makes sense that reporters working on this story, because of the nature of the story and because there are so fewer boots on the ground, that they would be cooperating. And I'm telling you, I don't know how other cities are, but Chicagoans, it's a big deal to be a Chicagoan. How many other cities, Edwin, do you know where people have the flag of Chicago routinely tattooed on their bodies? You see somebody with a Chicago tattoo, a flag of Chicago tattoo, you don't even think about it. It is so common. So there is a sense of who we are as Chicagoans, and the fact that, hey, we can knock the city ourselves, but if somebody comes in and attacks this large family that we call, the Chicago area, Chicagoans, you're going to have a fight on your hands. And I think we've seen that.
You in your career, you spent so much time covering, I don't mean exactly like this, but other people's stories, telling the stories of other people. In lots of ways, this was your story too. I mean, you were out there as a volunteer on the streets helping people. Talk about that. Talk about your experience in this. And I mean, it's remarkable.
Well, listen, my attitude is none of us can do everything, but all of us can do something. I wanted to do something, so I just took it upon myself to order whistles in bulk. I personally passed out at least 1,000 whistles. Either by myself, I'll go out there's a big Mexican supermarket 15 minutes from me, and I go there and I pass them out. I've been at the Jewel in the city. I've been different locations in the city, and I still have like 500 or 600 whistles that I haven't passed out yet. So I just did it. It was a one-man band. Okay, I just ordered the whistles and decided to pass them out. And whistles have become a big part of the resistance ecosystem.
Yeah, it's been our toolkit. Yep.
It is part of the toolkit. And for people who don't know, if somebody spots an ICE caravan, then you start blowing a whistle to alert people, hey, they're here. They're here. Take cover. Listen, I personally know somebody who Winnetka, for people who don't know it, is an upscale, affluent northern suburb. This Catholic church, when they heard that ICE was in the area, they hid their landscapers. Just thinking about that,
Mhm.
I mean, it makes me want to cry that that has to be done.
Well, so the experience you had is one that I had and lots of people had. You see this thing happening, and you know it's not just, and you know it's probably not legal, and you know with certainty it's wrong, and you wonder what you can do. And sometimes for me, when that happens, it's at night, and I've been thinking about it all day long, and I just make up my mind. I don't know. In the middle of the night, you know, you can't sleep. You're worried about something, and it dawns on you there's something you can do. And and I think all over Chicago, people had that experience because you say you were a one man band, but lots of people woke up and went out and delivered food to people who weren't going out.
Right. Right
Look,
now,
go shopping. Yeah.
as we speak, there is a food drive taking place at Evanston Township High School.
Yes.
And the last time they had it, they had another one recently. It was jammed with people who are bringing food. Why?
Mhm.
Because some people, mainly Latino, are too afraid to go to the grocery store.
Yes.
Can you imagine?
Well, we had Halloween, and I saw people taking kids who weren't their kids trick or treating because their parents couldn't leave their houses. Right?
Well, and as you know, there are non-Latinos who are volunteering to walk kids to school, so
Hmm.
parents do not have to put themselves in jeopardy of being kidnapped.
Yeah. Well, that's. I mean, um, you had. I mean, this is your world. You had personal experience with this. I mean, I'm one step removed. I teach college in Chicago, and some of the kids I teach lost parents, um, you know, in this last term. Just horrifying. Um, and I, I just feel like every one of those kids is our kids, you know, and um,
Absolutely.
the,
Edwin, there are two things that are motivating me. Um, just and I'm like you. I'll think about things late at night. Number one, I practiced law for 6 years, and you don't have to be a lawyer uh,
mhm,
to know the importance of the rule of law and the Constitution, the importance of checks and balances, all that stuff. That's number one. A lot of people don't realize, and frankly, I didn't realize till a few weeks ago, that if you enter the country with a visa and overstay your visa, uh, that is not a crime. It is a civil offense,
that's
and
correct.
the civil penalty is deportation. If you enter the country with no legal authorization, that is to say, not a visa, it's a misdemeanor. It only becomes a felony in either case if you're deported and you come
And then
back.
come back, right?
So the majority of people, the vast majority of people who are being scooped up are people, number one, who have not committed a crime, who've committed a civil offense, or number two, have committed a misdemeanor. What
Hmm.
else is a misdemeanor? Illegal parking, jaywalking. And
Hmm.
so what we're doing is we're sweeping up people who at worst have committed no crime, or at the most have committed a misdemeanor. There was a report in the Chicago Sun-Times, excuse me, the Chicago Tribune yesterday, that of more than 600 detainees, 18 had serious criminal records. And the president has said, we're going after the worst of the worst. Yeah, they got 18 out of 600.
Yeah. So I don't. I never have been a journalist. I don't pretend to be one, even though I would do this. You know, I'm married to a real journalist, so I get to say what you can't say, which is the president is just lying. He's just absolutely lying, and it's not the first time, and it won't be the last time. But it's cruel. It's absolutely cruel, and in part, that's why I'm so impressed with what you got the journalists to do. Because when a president tells lies to the country, you can cover it in a certain kind of way, which is he said and she said. And that's been a lot of what's gone on in the country. But once in a while, we're going to let that sit aside. We're going to talk about something bigger, like who we are as a people, who we are as a city, what we owe to each other. And and to use the trust that you and this remarkable group of your colleagues built over all years to do that. is enormously important.
Edwin, I will say that I wrote the letter, but it took no nudging to get this group of people to sign on. I think all of us were looking. I think a lot of people were looking for an opportunity to say something in a way that mattered. And I have to give kudos to three people: Bill Curtis, Ron Majors, and Carol, because they were the first three people I approached, and they said absolutely. I knew that if I had Ron, Carol, and Bill, that they would provide sufficient cover, for lack of a better term, or incentive. Like, if I was just a day-to-day reporter, which which I was, wait, Bill, Ron, and Carol are doing this.
So for those of you who aren't in Chicago, Phil's talking about the just longtime anchors and tellers of truth in the news for a whole generation. So
they were the Mount Rushmore of Chicago journalists, the people I just mentioned, along with folks like Walter Jacobson, who also signed on. But when you get people, look, all that we have right now, Edwin, as retired journalists, is our credibility, our reputations, and the lingering relationship that we had with our listeners and viewers, because we had a lot of radio people too. So we decided this is an asset we have. It's an asset that's never been used before. But my God, if you're not going to use that asset now, when are you going to use it?
So how many people that you didn't have a time to get to before you had to publish it have called you up afterwards and said, "Why isn't my name on here?"
We've gotten a few of those,
and
we have updated the list for the online version of not just the Tribune, but of further communications that we will make as a group. And I will tell you, I don't think we'll probably never do this again. You can go to you make a statement that's dramatic, or that might have impact, and you can't cheapen it by. We're never going to comment on an issue of public. We're not going to talk about, we stand in favor of pension reform. We stand in favor of the head tax. No, this is the heart of who we are, and that's what spoke to us in our hearts.
Phil, how do people read? I mean, it's the Tribune published it, but the Tribune is paywalled. How do people who don't pay for news, which is the majority of Americans these days, how do they get this? Do you know?
Well, one way, a real easy way, is I can send you the link that avoids the paywall, and I'll send it to you, and you can.
I'll put that out too. Sure. I mean,
I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful letter, and as I say, it's like one of those Walter Cronkite moments that's just so rare, and that it stands out, and it says, as that did, the relationship between the government and the country is gone awry and is askew, and that thank God doesn't happen all the time, right? But it happened in the 1960s, and it has happened here, and you guys got together and said, what's happening in Chicago is wrong. It's just wrong. And
one of the points that we make is, if you believe in the Constitution, in due process, in those protections that protect all of us, you should be alarmed by what is happening in Chicago. If you care about family values, and if you're a person of faith, you should be appalled by what's happened in Chicago. It is wrong on both counts, on the legal side and on the moral side. It's wrong.
Yeah, but Phil, I couldn't agree with you more. I also think I am so proud of Chicago, because what it has brought out in the active journalists who covered it so well, in the retired journalists, and what you have done to decide that a lifetime worth of capital is worth risking for this. What it's done for individuals who've just said, I have to go to that school and watch out for those kids, or for people blowing those whistles everywhere, or for the trainings that have gone on everywhere. We have defended each other in a remarkably beautiful way. And Chicago, it's a segregated city. But this has brought people across those lines in a way that I am not used to seeing in my city. And I think it was beautiful.
No, it's been a remarkable response. I will tell you that that for me, this has not been theoretical. Look, who are the people who are being swept up? Of the 600 people they've reported on, 18.
They look like you.
Who is it?
They look like you.
They look like me.
Yep.
They look like my mother. They look like my sisters. They look like my nieces.
Yeah.
And I tell you that it's not just us. It's people who might be us. For example, I know somebody whose in-laws, two women, his mother-in-law and his mother-in-law's friend. They're both Greek Americans. They came from Greece in their 20s. They're now yayas in their 70s.
Yep.
They went to the dollar store. ICE agents came in, surveyed the place, saw what they looked like, heard them talking with an accent, down on the floor, face first, zip ties behind, and they're taken to the ICE detention facilities. Two Greek American grandmothers. Why? Because maybe they looked a little like us, dark complected, were speaking with an accent. Their families went crazy. Whose family wouldn't? So it's in looking for people like us. You might be Indian American. You might be you might be from India. You could be Arab American. You could be any of a number of ethnic groups. And just because of the way you look, that's what happened to you.
Courtesy of Judge Kavanaugh and the Supreme Court that said, oh, well, we can't use profiling. We can't use race in any way to address grievances. It certainly can't be used to think about college admissions, but you bet, let's use it to sweep people off our streets. For me, that was a profoundly a break with the best of our history, and a reflection of the worst of our history, for sure.
Well, it's there have been so many Supreme Court cases that you look back on them and you think, what the heck? Plessy v. Ferguson. I won't get into that, but you look at the Supreme Court and what they've done. This past summer, I took a trip with some of my. I come from a big family. I took a trip with some of my sisters, and we went to a former concentration camp, Japanese American camp, in Utah. And I will tell you, it is so sobering and sad. And what did we learn from that experience? Here we're doing something that's comparable. Look, I met this guy named Lee Goodman, and he and I had become friends because we've been showing up at these things together. And he said this. He says, speaking as a Jewish person, he said, a lot of us think we would have been heroes in World War II. We think that we would have sheltered Jews. In our minds, we're stars in our own movie. He said, but think about it. What you're doing right now, this minute, is exactly what you would have been doing back then. Sitting on your hands now, that's what you would have been. That's what you would have been doing right now. Not paying attention to these racist dragnets. That's what you would have been doing back in Nazi Germany. None of us can do everything, as I said, but we all can do something. Even if it's just, okay, I'm not going to go out and pass whistles. I'm not going to go to Broadview and throw myself into a crowd, but I can send $100 to the Greater Chicago Food Depository because people are too afraid to go to get food. You can do that. You can, there are a bunch of charities. The Archdiocese has programs for immigrants. The ACLU is heavily involved in these lawsuits. Send them $50. You don't have to put your life on the line. Just use PayPal. All of us, if all of us did something small like that, it would be tremendous.
Well, I mean, I think to go to your example for 90 years ago, If Munich and Berlin behaved like Chicago, the world would have been better off, because people are doing those things. They really are. And I mean, those priests who regularly go out and get shot with pellet guns. I mean, you see it just in various neighborhoods, people running out, protecting each other.
Edwin,
Exactly.
absolutely. I don't remember ever seeing any video of Nazi Germany where neighbors came out attacking, verbally,
Yep.
attempting to shield Jews. That's
Yep.
happening. That's
Here.
happening in Chicago. And listen, for the record, let me say that every one of us who signed that letter, we fully support the apprehension and legal, with due process, deportation of immigrants, undocumented immigrants who have committed crimes. That is a given. Nobody wants murderers or rapists here.
Nobody.
We're fine with the worst of the worst being dealt with according to the law. But that's not what's happening. That is not what's happening.
Yeah. Well, and again, a lot of people have borne witness to what's happening here, but it's different when you guys did it because of the history of reporting and credibility. So uh, for lots of people who've been out decrying what's gone on here, it was a huge boost that you guys did what you did. And for people who could easily pay no attention to lots of us who are decrying what's going on, they can't pay no attention to you guys doing it. Again, it's like Cronkite in Vietnam. It's a different level of warning to America, a different level of warning, and one that we need.
I saw one commentator. Look, not everyone has been on board with what we've done. One critic on social media said, "Hey, nobody cares what journalists think." In Chicago, that's not true.
No,
In
it's not.
Chicago, that's not true. If you've seen Ron Majors, again, to people outside of the Chicago area, won't know who he is. If you've seen Bill Curtis, if you've seen Carol Marine, you actually do care what they think because of the relationship that has been established between them and the viewer over decades, where they have never spoken out about their political beliefs. And now to do it, you know what? People are interested.
Well, and they earned that trust, as you did, by holding people who, like me, people who have been in the political world, to account, whether they were Democrats or Republicans, no matter where they were in the political spectrum. You all had careers that depended on your ability to hold people to account for the truth, for the facts, for the context that those truth and facts are shared in, and that matters a lot.
Well, that's one of the reasons that we started the letter with the simple 3-letter sentence, "You know us."
Yeah.
And they do. Over the course of a career, Edwin, I think if you watch somebody for years, I think you get a sense of who they are in nonverbal ways, in how somebody reacts during an interview, follow-up questions. Basically, number one, are they a good person? Are they smart? Do they have common sense? And hopefully, we have enough of that in the bank over the course of a career that we can make a deposit, we can make a withdrawal from that bank, issue it to the public, and they pay attention.
Yeah. I mean, and this isn't just, you guys have been on TV a long time. There are people who, frankly, have been on TV a long time who I don't feel this way about. And a lot of people, you guys have built up a lot of credibility the hard way, and by having really terrific, impactful media careers that have helped a big metropolitan area get to know itself.
And Edwin, some of your followers may live in communities where maybe there's not this history of such intense interest in politics, particularly, and where the relationship between anchors and reporters and their viewers, or radio people as well, where that bond may not be as strong.
Mhm.
I suspect in most cities there is something akin to this.
Yeah.
But I would ask people in other cities, think about the most trusted person in your market. The most the men and women who have brought you the news either as anchors or reporters for years. And all of a sudden they come out and they say, what is happening is wrong. I think you'd pay attention.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think I think I'd like to think that it was part of the reason that Greg Bovino left Chicago, but I think the judges had something to do with that too. I think the collective winter had something to do with it. The collective weight of the response, but it includes that what you did was enough for them to say, we can't keep doing this here for a while. We're going to go somewhere else. And all that says to me is, I got to introduce you to people in North Carolina now because now it's their turn to face this ugliness.
Edwin, first of all, let me say thank you for making for giving us a little bit of credibility. We take no credit. I mean, come on. But we may have contributed to the overall vibe, but it was a lot of hands. And the thing is, it's not over yet. But you raised a good point, and that is, you take a rock and you drop some water on it, nothing. But you take drop after drop after drop, and we consider ourselves maybe a drop. Soon, that rock. So anyway, soon that rock is going to show some wear, and with many voices collectively, maybe we can have an impact.
Yeah. Well,
I'll tell you what, if we didn't raise our voices, I think I know what you know how much worse it could have been.
Yes, I do, and I expect it. And we're not done. They'll be back. I mean, this is a long fight, but again, I wanted to highlight this because it's so unusual. Because it is. I mean, journalists, they stand apart from the communities they serve, but they are part of the communities they serve. And this community came together, and you guys were not hesitant to say we get it and we're part of this world.
Edwin, I think to a person, all of us, we covered this city for a living. It was a professional experience, but it's personal too. We love this city.
Mm-hmm.
We love it here. We care. Our viewers and our listeners, we just, I don't know. There was a connection between us, and so this isn't just a legal or legalistic argument. It's personal.
But to be clear, Phil, your listeners, the people of Chicago, didn't call you and say, "Hey, we really need you to do this."
No.
You just knew to do it.
I had the thought in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever had. I'm going to turn on the light because it's getting kind of dark here. Hold on. I don't know if you've ever had an experience where you have an idea and you realize that it's an important idea and that it's going to be a lot of work to do it, but you have no choice. As soon as I got the idea, I thought, no, I'm going to have to do that. Because as you know, rounding up a bunch of journalists, getting them to agree to a statement, blah, 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 in a very short window, it was a lot of work. It was stressful. Believe me, in the scheme of things, it was nothing. But it was just an idea I had in the middle of the night. And my colleagues, thank God, went along with it.
Yeah. Well, it's a model that I hope journalists around the country will think about, how they can also find ways, retired journalists, but even maybe current journalists have other ways they can do this, to be part of this enormously important protection of the rule of law, protection of the rights of people in our country, Americans and residents in our country all have rights, and more than, it's not just an issue of rights, it's an issue of common decency. It's just common decency, what we owe each other as human beings.
Yeah. Look, a 75-year-old woman with a tamale cart. You're gonna treat her like a serial killer? I mean, at some point, I mean, don't you have a heart? You know, empathy to me is not a bad word.
It's not weakness.
It is not weakness. Empathy is a sign of a civilized society. And again, we have empathy, but we do believe, and let me emphasize this, that if there are bad people with criminal records,
Yep.
absolutely enforce the law, deport them,
Yep.
apprehend them, deport them.
All right. Well,
That's not what's happening here.
what you showed and what the city has shown is that you can have empathy and be strong at the same time.
Absolutely.
And we have done that. The lawyers have done it. The journalists have done it. The retired journalists have done it. Teachers have been doing it. Priests have been doing it. Ministers have been doing it. Plain old citizens in their pajamas running out of their house have been doing it. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to fight injustice as we have. And Phil, I'm grateful that you're on this journey. I really am.
Well, thank you for standing shoulder to shoulder with us, Edwin. We appreciate it very much.
Yep. All right. I will see you around, I guess. Thank you for your time today. It was great.
It was my pleasure.